I think we're away. It's a couple of minutes early, so I'll just not say anything very important. Well, I probably won't say anything very important anyway throughout the whole thing. But just give me a sign. Let me know whether the sound's all right. I'm just going to go off camera for a second to move things around on my screen so everything's in the right place. Oh, no, I don't want that on. Hang on. There we go. Silent mode on, I believe. Right. Oh, I can hear my own voice coming back at me. Hang on, that's not what I want. There we go. Right. Yay. Okay, so I'm just going to look at that. I think I can look at the things here, I'm sure. Hey, Alec, how you doing? Hi, Tom. Hi, Chris. Hi, Will. Yay. Hey, Luch, how you doing? Will, thanks so much. Will, you're always so enthusiastic and supportive. So, as he says, just one of the first. Hey, Manish, how you doing? He says, like and subscribe, do all that. I'll do that in a minute. We're starting officially. Right, let me just look at the quotes. I'm in New York City. It's over for us here. We're all going to die. You're right. We are all going to die one day. Unfortunately, eternal life hasn't been mastered yet, but we will get there. We're not going to die. We're going to be all right. Don't worry about it. Well, you know. So I'm just going to do the usual thing. Thank you so much for coming. Like, subscribe, share if this is your thing. If you know anybody that would benefit from this, I'm going to be as open as possible. So do please ask me any questions like, and I mean anything. I think it's a time to be completely open. And I'm not saying I've got the answers, but I'm saying I think it's important that we all talk to each other and hear each other's stories. So I will, again, be open about anything that's going on, anything that I can do. Ask me questions if you stuff you want me to talk about, and, you know, I'll do whatever I can. Please check out cardmagiccourse.com. Nothing, has there been no other time that's been more important for you to check out cardmagiccourse.com, because I've said quite a few times on here that one day I'll be able to do this full time, and like this and the card course will be my only thing. Guess what? Who would have thunk it? Now, this and the card course is literally the only way I make my living, because it's everything else is gone. And I'm not saying that we're all in a terrible situation, well, subjectively terrible, relatively, compared to a couple of weeks ago. Many magicians lost their work, many businesses lost their work, many people, I mean, it's tough. So that's what it is. But if you want to support the channel, check out cardmagiccourse.com. For the love of God, check out cardmagiccourse.com. At least I'll have time to make loads more videos. There'll be about 800 on there next week. 17 reviews a day. We'll be going live constantly. So thank you very much indeed. Well, I'm just going to have another look at the comments in a second. Then I'm going to get into the couple of things I've got to say, really, coming from the other work that I do, which is the leadership training and stuff. That's gone. And just stuff that I've learned over the years that has helped me through difficult times and is helping me greatly through this. And this is ongoing. I'd love to hear the way you're dealing with it, if you've got any hints and tips, and I will share with you, like I said, the tools, the little tricks I use, the little hacks to keep me smiling as I am now, and at the same time being very concerned about certain things. So I'm just going to go to the chat. I wonder if magicians entertain the crowds, Will said, as they huddled in underground tube stations during the bombing raids. Most of us don't even know what difficult times are. Well, I just said that in a completely intelligible way. Most of us don't know what difficult times are. We do now. Okay, so I personally have had a quite an easy life. I don't mean I haven't had challenges, you know, especially in the last sort of few years, but many of us, not all of us at all, many of us have had relatively comfortable lives. When something like this happens, it kind of kicks us a bit, because life these days is quite affluent. We do live in a society where we have, you know, the access to the internet quite easily and things like that. So yes, many of us have our challenges, but this hits us harder because we're kind of not built for it, a lot of us. And that's me included. So I think you're right. I don't think that's in a bad way. I don't think it's like we should have a harder time, but I think it's part of something we've got to deal with. Cardini with fellow Welshman from Mumbles. Yeah. That Cardini book's great, isn't it? Hi, just thanks so much for saying hi, everyone. It does mean a lot, you know. I'm a magician, I have no friends to share it too. This is what I said. It's like I've kind of been self-isolating over the weekend. You would have noticed, nothing's changed. Now I just sit and read magic books and stay at home. I just don't go out as much, but I don't go anyway. So I think we'll have more time for card magic course. Yes, we will, Anthony Christmas. We'll have lots more time for card magic course. This is. Please don't think this is a just a grotesque marketing ploy, because it really isn't. Steve Cook. Hi, Steve. Shame we cannot meet up this week, but family is much more important. Yeah, I was going to meet up with Steve Cook, who wrote the book that I reviewed recently. I don't know, I'm supposed to be close to you on this screen. Pete Booth. Yay, how you doing? Okay. So I spoke about a thing on Facebook today, and by the way, I am putting live things on Facebook, total rambles, which is similar, but non-magic ones on my Facebook personal account every now and then if you want to check that out. This is just sort of that's kind of like a video diary. This is looking at how our magic, or what we do really, but let's talk, our magic can help us or get through this time. The first thing I want to talk about, which is what I talked about a little bit on Facebook today, which is this idea of flow. This idea of having activities that help us, that enhance our lives and make us happy. And this goes back to a book called Flow and a study of happiness that was done by a guy called Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, or Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, depending on how you want to say it. But the book is called Flow, The Psychology of Happiness. It's a wonderful book. It's one of my favourite books, but it's also, you can get summaries of it online. You can just Google it. You don't have to read the whole thing. But the sort of hypothesis was what makes people happy. Is it the experience? Is it what you do? Difference between happiness and pleasure, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that comes out of the studies is that we need flow experiences. We need flow activities in our lives. And that means we have to do things that, for ourselves, that get us in the zone. The classic way of putting it is in the zone. But we've got to look at what that means, because we do get it wrong sometimes. So a good example is last night I was exhausted. I felt absolutely exhausted. It kind of hit me a bit yesterday. The weekend, I was in a bit of that kind of, exciting is the wrong word because that's a positive thing, but it was like the novelty of what's going on. It was kind of worrying and scary, but the kids were kind of going, oh, we got to stay in, and the change was kind of a new novelty thing for them. So we played board games, we did all that stuff. And last night it did really kind of, it hit home a little bit. I'd kind of done a bit of work and I've made myself busy, and I sat down when the kids were in bed and just kind of went, wow, things are going to, obviously it sounds obvious, but when you really think about it, things are going to change. And I talked on Facebook the other day about making friends with change, which I'll maybe talk about in a minute as well. And my partner went to bed, and I was still sitting there, and I was tired, and I thought, if I go to bed now, I was starting to think about it. And I started practicing some coin magic, and I started practicing from the Danny Goldsmith new download, which I will review, is Homage, which is a very challenging coin magic download. And within 10 minutes I was in flow. I was in that situation where I'd forgotten what time it was, I'd forgotten to obsessively check Facebook, obsessively check the news, and for about a good 45 minutes I was just in this zone, right? This kind of, it was me, that coin, this space here, and nothing really existed out of that place. And it was such a nice release. And the weird thing was, even though I was exhausted, and I had to make myself do it, I kind of went, no, I said today I was going to do half an hour of this, and I'm going to do it even though I'm tired. And within 10 minutes I was awake. I was kind of, but in a really good way, in a really kind of peaceful way. And then when I went to bed, I felt peaceful. I felt, yes, I was worried, but I was in a very different state as if I'd have gone straight to bed with all that stuff in my head. And that was flow. And if you're wondering what the criteria for flow is, meaning if we look at our activities, how can we know it's going to be a flow activity? Because it's not necessarily a pleasant activity. This is what the study showed. They showed that you can do something that is in fact not that much fun, but still get into flow. And if you've ever kind of put a job off for ages, like something like, I don't know, the classic one with me is cleaning the bathroom. I hate cleaning the bathroom, right? Deep clean. Within 10 minutes, I'm kind of into it, and I get really into it, and I kind of do it really well, and I put a podcast on, and I get into flow. It's not like I'm enjoying it, but it's challenging me enough, and I'm seeing the kind of good feeling of what I'm doing. If you're experiencing that, it came out terribly, but you know what I mean. The sense of achievement, that's it. And so the criteria, and the same with magic, right? You're getting frustrated, but you can still get into flow. The criteria for flow, well, there's many criteria, but is the first thing is it has to be challenging. Now, if you've ever sat there and thought, right, I'm going to practice my magic, and you realise he's just practicing your double lift again, you're doing something that isn't challenging you, then you know what it's like. You don't kind of do it and it's relaxing and it's meditative, but it doesn't get you into that state. You can get quite bored of it quite easy. It's like playing a board game that's too easy, or playing a video game that's too easy, or I go for a bike ride, and if it's too flat, I get bored. There's no challenge in it. So the first one, it has to have challenge. But the challenge can't be over challenging. It has to fit into this kind of, there's a model, I'll show you this quickly. Okay, this for preparation. There's a thing called the Ronke model, right? Very simple. Comfort, am I in? Comfort, stretch, and panic, all right? So comfort is when we're too comfortable, everything's too easy. We think that's what we want sometimes. And when you think about if we do have to self-isolate, and some of you already are, we think, oh great, we can get all comfortable and cozy. Very quickly that can get old, okay? But we can get stuck there. Stretch is that thing where we're kind of challenging ourselves a little bit, and we're struggling with something, but not that much. It's just enough. And panic is like, and I don't mean panic in a sort of, oh, I'm panicking, but panic just means it's too hard. You just can't get anywhere near it. It's kind of like if you're a beginner card magician like I was, and you start to learn the cull multiple cards, and you can't even shuffle a deck of cards properly. That's kind of, there's just nothing there. So we need to get into that stretch place. But sometimes we don't think we do until we do it. And that's a really important point. So the point I suppose I'm making is that don't let your brain trick you into thinking you want comfort. You do need to get into that place where you're stretching yourself, and sometimes you have to put yourself there and not listen to your brain telling you that it's not where you want to go. So the challenge is part of the flow activity. The other thing, it's got to be an autotelic experience, which means when you're doing it just for the sake of doing it. And this is why I always talk about flourishing. If you look at it pragmatically, and a lot of moves that you may learn with a deck of cards or a coin, you may never use them in a show, you may never use them in a performance. If we get caught up in that pragmatic stuff, we kind of sometimes overthink it and we'll not do it, if you see what I mean. We'll go, well, I'll never use that in a show, so I'm not going to do it. But then if you start, you'll realise certain things, if they're challenging enough, you'll just get really into it. And it doesn't matter that you'll never do it. And this is what I think a lot of us forget, especially when we become professional. I lost this for years, what I call my wilderness is I lost this, just the joy of doing it for the sake of doing it. When you learn to flourish, if you think about it, some flourishes, you learn it because you think it looks cool or whatever. It's challenging enough that it's difficult, but you get instant feedback, which is the other criteria. You can feel yourself getting better at it, but when you can do it, it gives you its own reward, and that's the point. You may not never use it, but you're doing it for the sake of it. It's like playing a video game and being on the boss level. If the boss is too easy, it's like, if it's difficult, when you kill it, you're just like, yes. And even though you've achieved absolutely nothing in the outside world, you've done it for the sake of doing that because it's a flow experience. So I did mention that. So you've got the fact it's an autotelic experience, you're doing it for the sake of doing it. The fact that it's challenging, gives instant feedback, which I mentioned then. And what I mean by that is you have to see some sort of improvement. You have to be able to do it, and the activity give you some sort of feedback. You see that you're getting somewhere. And it has to be goal orientated. And I don't mean goal as in use it in a performance. I mean goal as in I'm learning something, the goal is to learn it. And that's kind of what we want. And sometimes I think that if we don't know that going into it, we find ourselves getting bored, and boredom is really not what we want at the moment. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I think if we can find those flow experiences in, when we are sitting at home, when we are maybe isolating, if we have to do that, I'm not sure whether we'll all have to do that or whatever may come, I think we have to make ourselves get into that space, because it's easy not to when we are feeling stressed and upset. What tends to happen if we don't get out and we don't do things like exercise, and I don't mean exercise, it could be just walking or going to the shop or anything like that, we tend to get into a bit of a slump, a lot of us. And I did this on a cruise ship. I was on a cruise ship many, many years ago, and I was really miserable, really, really struggling on the ship. I was going through Russia, my show was awful, I wasn't a good performer then, and I'd done one show and it was terrible, and I wanted to come on but so badly, and I thought, but I've got days of doing nothing, I can read magic books, and I just couldn't get my brain into gear. And I think, again, it goes back to that thing of you have to sometimes just take that leap and just get up and start doing something. So yesterday I did a thing where every hour I would remind myself just to change the pattern a little bit, get up, not just get in a slump of just kind of sitting watching the news and social media, to get up and do something, maybe cook something, do some magic, open a magic book, get my brain stimulated. So that's, and I think we're sort of linking this to mental health. It's how do we maintain our mental health and keep our brains occupied and use our magic to help us get through this. A couple of other things I'll mention. Obviously, the obvious thing to say is we can use the time we may have, I'm not saying we're all going to have it, to improve our magic, to actually do the things we've been wanting to do. You know, we all complain about not having time to read our magic books. So again, set a time, make a plan, and that's really important. Saturday to me was a write-off. It was rubbish. I was like, yeah, we don't have to do anything. And then it was just like, God, it was just, by the end of it, I just had enough. Sunday, I got up, I made a list, and I've got to achieve these 4 things today, and if I do that, I'll be happy. One of them was opening a magic book and reading a magic book. This was the Regal book that I'm going to review. And it just we can use this time to actually come out of it. And I said to my friend Noel this morning, I said I'm going to be like Steve 40 by the end of this. just so, you know, we've got that for once. So try and utilise that time. And I'm sure many of us are going to have to work, and many of us won't be able to do that. The other thing I want to talk about is community. We have a chance to connect. Ironically and paradoxically for me, I've connected with more people in the last few days online than I have when I could go out and see them, because life gets in the way, and it's really brought home the fact that I need connection. Now, it's okay when I know it's there and I know I'm not really getting it and I'm choosing to do my own thing. But all of a sudden, the reality is that I might not see people. So I'm really trying to connect with people online. On the card course, we're doing a social tonight, and there's like 12 of us, I think, doing an online social. So use that. And just a little tip, by the way, obviously Skype is a good thing for us to use. If you don't know about it, there's a thing called Zoom, and Zoom is, it's like Skype, but it's really robust. And what it does, it doesn't use all your bandwidth, it uses a lot of their bandwidth. And the brilliant thing is you can get a free version of Zoom, which gives you 40-minute meetings with multiple people, super easy. You get it, you send an email, you start a meeting on it with video and everything, and you send an invite, it gives you an invite link, you send it to whoever you want, it sends them an email, and you and your friends can get together and session over things. So similar to Skype, if a lot of you use Skype, but really, really recommend it. It's been great for the course. Like I said, we've got loads of us on it later. And it lets you change camera angles and stuff if you want to put another tiny camera on your hands for card magic. So as a community, we can get together like that. I do want to mention a few of the communities I've got written down. The Coronavirus Magicians Unite page, which was, sorry, forgive me, let me just, hang on. That is what it's called, isn't it? Yeah, yeah, it is. Check out that page. And I know some people have been saying things online about, other people have had it harder than this, so what if we lose our gigs and that? It's not about that. And what we have to understand is that it's okay to complain in a certain way. This is only my opinion, and it goes in line with someone called Brené Brown, who talks about vulnerability a lot. What I think we don't want to do is not talk about how we feel about stuff. I think that's a dangerous game, because we bottle stuff up and we don't think we have the right to complain about certain things, etc., etc. Now, there's a way of doing it, but she calls it to piss and moan with perspective. And what that means is, yes, we know there are people worse off than us. We know there are people, but we need also to have a way of saying to people, look, I'm struggling here a little bit, and is there anybody that can help me, or anybody that can give me support, or just talk to me? And I think communication is so important. If we start bottling it up, and I know it's a cliche, but there is quite a lot of science behind it, we do have to be able to go, you know what, no, this is shit at the moment, and I know it might get worse. I know it's worse for that person that maybe lost someone, but I'm worried, and I want someone to answer some questions, and I don't want to feel alone. And that's really what it comes down to. I think if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and things like that, the second part of that is belonging. We have to feel like we belong to a community. So we do have these communities. I will put the links below. You look at people like Luke Dancy that are doing stuff online, that are chatting to people, just making people feel connected. So do use communities, start communities. If you can't get to the Magic Club, do Zoom meetings. It really doesn't take much. As long as the bandwidth stays okay. I know there are talk about internet's maybe going to struggle soon, but we work with what we can. I'm going to go to the comments in a minute. There's some challenges that I've written down. The slump is what I talk about, that we've got to be really aware of. And by the way, the way we get over these challenges most of the time is just to be aware of them. It's just to kind of go, I know it's kind of, what's that saying? To be forewarned is to be forearmed, or I always get that wrong. But you know what I mean? If you know what the challenges are, then we can overcome them when they're there. The first is the slump. Understand that you will get more tired when you're at home, not going out. You will start, those negative thoughts will come in. So just know what they are, know they're there, and know that we have to kind of force ourselves into certain situations like practice and training sometimes. The energy loss that comes with that, we have to overcome. A really good way of doing it, and you don't have to be into exercise to do this, but what I find works just brilliant for me to get me into a state of wanting to practice my magic is to do some kind of exercise first thing in the day. It can be a walk, it can be anything you want. It can be a mindfulness exercise, but something that just gets something moving in you, whether it's your thoughts or your mind, or it stimulates anything to get you started. I do recommend physical, walk around the block if we can get to that point, or do anything you can at home, because it just totally and utterly changes my way of thinking. I'm not someone that's had a history of being sporty and exercisey and all that. Exercisey isn't a word, I don't think, but it really, really, really helps. I cannot stress that enough. Your actions influence your thoughts, influence your emotions, influence your actions. So we need to go in. If we're struggling with our actions, we can go in with changing the way we think. If we're struggling the way we're thinking, we can go in changing our actions, so we can hack it that way. I hope that makes sense, but do ask me any questions. One of those questions might be, of course, what are you talking about, Steve? Blame and stress. Now, I've seen a little bit of this online. People that study blame and stress talk about blame, and this again from Brené Brown's work, talk about blame as being the offsetting of pain and discomfort. So you ever had that thing where you kind of hurt yourself and you look for the first thing to blame? You sort of stub your toe and you do, who put that there, even if before you know there's anything there. It's that thing, it's what we want to do, we want to blame. And what's happening, I think, as I've seen a little bit of, that people who are starting to get a bit stressed are starting to kick back a little bit at people. Somebody will say something online, somebody will argue. And we have to understand that people are stressed. They are going to say things they don't mean. They are going to worry, and that's going to manifest itself in sometimes things being said that sound very arrogant, and this and that, or quite aggressive. All I'll say is try and have the glass full a little bit and be a bit forgiving with people. Understand that when our prefrontal cortex goes offline a bit, if you believe that science, which is, when we get stressed, we can't think rationally, that part of our brain doesn't work very well. People will say and behave in ways that may not be what they're usually behaving like. But do you know what I mean? So just compassion, forgiving, differences of opinion, it's fine. The thing that's happening at the moment with the best approach to take. The reality is that many of us don't know, but we can have an opinion and we can air it, and we can also disagree. So I think that disagreeing is fine, but trying to, because it's so easy for everything to, and there's a society at the moment, as a globe, as a world, it's going to be very easy for things to just go from a little argument to something else to become a big thing, and then it just gets unpleasant. I think we really have to keep an eye on that. So I suppose the original, how does that link to magic, is that, we have a community that can very easily tip. We've seen it in many, many ways. So I think we have to try and really keep an eye on it. So that's it, I think. I don't think there's anything I missed. I've got a little whiteboard with some notes there. I'm going to be posting as much as I can. Just, feel free to give me stuff to talk about if it helps. And the one thing I'll say is you're not alone. All right? You're not alone. I've lost all my work. I've got enough to pay the bills at the end of this month. After that, I haven't. There's just not enough money. The card course, I'll be totally transparent, and not enough to pay my mortgage. So I've got that, the bills, the kids, all that kind of stuff. So, if you want to reach out and you're struggling with stuff, do use this and use these forums and all that. But I'm going to go back to have a look at these comments. Talk amongst yourselves. If someone tunes in now, they're just going to see me looking at my phone, which looks so. Hey, hi, Michelle. Michelle's locked down, I think, aren't you, mate? Hi. Yeah. Let's have a look. Me and my family in auto-imposed quarantine. My city is one of the ones affected with the virus. Today, the 6th day. At times tends to be stressful. Ezekiel, yeah, man. I mean, we're getting there. I think we're going to be 6 days, and I think it's going to go on for a long time, isn't it? And I think I can feel that that's going to happen here very, very soon. Hi, Febmo. Greetings, Steve from Southern California. I mean, it's only just begun. There's going to be a lot of bodies to sort through. Well, we are very resilient. And if you think of, World War II, where you would walk outside and the city would be decimated, and people dealing with this, we will deal with this. We will deal with it. We do. That's what we do. We are wired for challenge. Every generation has a huge challenge to overcome, and we do overcome it, even if the work seems huge. We're a resilient species. Trying to practice one-handed false cut that may have been invented is my current challenge. Yeah. So do those little challenges. That's, it seems so trivial, but it's not. And somebody might see this as trivial, as practicing magic. It's not. This is, we live to be happy. We live to do things that make us happy. That's why we do them, and we can have that even if we're at home. It's just we've got to find it, and we've got to put effort into it. Never show off. Are you flourishing on specific routines only? Never show off skills. Yeah, when I say flourishing, that's what I'm on about. You just do it for the sake of doing it, not to go out and I think it fits some people. A little flourish every now and then is good, isn't it? I love watching Cardiff Express. Absolutely. I'm just going to try and see if there's. Opportunity to do tiny shows. No, is the middle layer of cards edible? I think it might be. Will it go well in nettle soup? I know. I think it's funny because I was talking to Noel this morning about what we've all of a sudden just gone. We've got this, and we're not very. Most magicians is like as a street performer. As a street performer, I earn quite a lot of money every day, and I get the money. But at the end of every day or at the end of every week, I have nothing. I just live gig to gig, and it's shocking. I'm now looking at going, great, how am I going to pay the bills next week? But I've got the entire Aronson collection, except for one. And there was a little bit in me this morning that was tempted to buy a magic book, and I was like, no, it's weird, isn't it? We've got this part of us that is rational, and this part of us is just completely irrational, and I've got to start actually reading the things. So listen, I hope that's been useful. I hope I don't sound like too woo-woo. Most stuff I do is based on experience, based on helping people through different challenges, and I just wanted to just put my 2 penneth in there. So what I'll do is I'll go off in a sec. Plus side for magicians, cards of fuel. Yeah, definitely. We could burn them. God, what if cards run out? Food? All right. What if cards run out? What we do? I have to go and buy some, get the cheap tatty cards out, and oh God, don't. What a first world problem that is. So, thank you very much. Check in. I might do more of these now. So if you just talk to me, leave comments. If you think more live things, if we are locked down and live communication is going to help, I'm just bought something that can allow me to get Skype calls in. Maybe we'll start interviewing people. But just I do listen to your comments. So when this is gone, when this chat is gone, it might be up for a bit, but then you can chat when it's up permanently. So thank you very much, Steve at cardmagiccourse.com. If you need to email me, obviously I may not be able to get back to you straight away. Comment on here and I read every single comment. Please check out cardmagiccourse.com. I'm going to be putting a lot of time into it because that and this is now my full-time job. And oh yeah, like, subscribe, and Instagram is at Real Magic Review. So thank you very, very much, everyone. It's been really lovely talking to you. It's been really lovely seeing your names there. Thanks a lot and take care. Cheers.